Exactly 12 minutes after 2. If you just tuned in, good afternoon. Welcome to lunch. That was Chris Werge and On My Mind. And very privileged this afternoon to have that gentleman in studio with us. Good afternoon, Chris.
Hi, how you doing?
I'm well. How are you?
Well, thank you. Cool.
Great.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolutely. It's great. And I was just saying to Chris off air, I'm like, I really like his music. Super impressed, I must say. So to the people that produced the album, I take my hat off to them and just relay my thanks as well. But yeah, you've come this afternoon because you are my new artist for this particular week. And you've set up and you have your guitar here, and in just a bit you're going to be singing something for us a cappella, which is what I love. But let's chat a bit about Chris. Tell me a bit about yourself in terms of your background, where you come from, where you grew up, stuff like that.
Well, I'm 23 years old now, and I was born in Paarl, and moved to Pines with my family when I was 2, and I've grown up there ever since. Attended school locally as well in Rondebosch, and I think musically, I remember like just singing carols around the Christmas tree, that kind of thing. That's kind of where the singing kind of started, I think. And in school, I was always interested in the music and just expressing emotion through that, I think. And I started piano lessons in grade 2, and I also was singing in the school choir, and kind of just from there, it kind of started at that point. And then through high school, I was involved in the cabaret and the choir a little bit. And just at the time of my teenage years, I was listening to a lot of music like John Mayer and Death Cab for Cutie and different singer-songwriter kind of bands. And just started thinking, hey, like I'd like to learn the guitar. And I just started teaching myself the acoustic guitar. My dad taught me a couple of chords, and one of my friends, Matt, gave me some advice and tips. He gave me a few like lessons as well, and from there I just I've been writing for about 6 or 7 years. Yeah.
Wow. And so, did you always want to be a professional singer, or was that just kind of like, okay, let's see what happens?
That is my main dream. Yeah,
Wow.
I'd love to do it full time. Yeah.
All right. And growing up, was that also something that you kind of wanted to do, or did that kind of just develop over time?
Yes and no. Yeah, I think I think when you're a teenager and you're like a musician, you always dream of making that album and
Yes.
touring the world and making music videos and things. And I think I still have those dreams, definitely. But what was the question again?
Just basically being a professional singer was something that you wanted since the age of like 2 or 3.
Yes, but also actually, funnily enough, I went on to study design. I studied industrial design at Tech for 4 years, and
Okay.
that was also one of my dreams, actually, to be an automotive designer and go overseas to Germany, design for like Audi or Mercedes or something, like some kind of fancy car company or something. But
Okay.
we'll see what happens. Maybe one day.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But talk to me about the album Exposure. Just tell me a bit about the production process and how that came to be.
Yeah, it's making an album is extremely tough. I didn't realize how draining it is, like emotionally and physically. It's I think what I did a couple years back was record an EP where I'd invested in some gear, like just a little condenser mic and audio interface, and recorded a 6-track EP with my mate Lance at home, and that was really cool. And but when you get to studio, it's different. It's different. You're working for about 6-7 months solidly, and it was a really cool process. And I'll just tell you a bit about it. So I met a guy called Gavin Taylor. He's now my manager. He runs entertainment. He's the entertainment manager at Grand West, and he kind of mentored me and shadowed me over the last couple of years. And just I met him through my parents, and he introduced me to a vocal coach, Bev Scott Brown, who's also now a co-manager as well with him. And she just kind of guided me and helped me with vocal training and things. And that was a 3-year process. And then during that time, I started like working on getting small like live gigs. Gavin got me an opportunity to play at Jackson Hall at Grand West, which was great, like a jazz bar there.
Yeah.
That was 2 years ago. Really, really good time. And then last year, after I finished my studies, I decided to take a gap year and just take out a loan and just make an album and invest in that. I think like I just felt called to kind of do that, and I gave it my best for the time I had, and it was hard. We started in January. We hired a really cool electric guitarist, Neil Benjamin, who also produced the album. He did an amazing job. And he kind of sat with me from January in my bedroom. We just played the songs acoustically and workshopped them. And then we hired a drummer called Werner von Waltzleben. He's a local session drummer. And Sean Johannes, also one of the top session bassists in South Africa. And we just, as four guys, we just kind of workshopped the songs. at Sean's studio in Durbanville, and we did that for a couple weeks, and over a couple of months we were workshopping, and then at home I was working on ideas, recording stuff during the week, and then June, July we went to a studio called Thunderbird in Rosebank, which is run by some of the guys from Marshall Music, Mike Vaughan, Andy Mack, Richard Edwards, and that team. And that was just really cool. Just another blessing, like just being connected with those guys. And I've known some of them through Marshall Music for a couple years, so it was really nice just to have their input and support in the project. And we went to Thunderbird for 3 weeks for pre-production, and that's recording all the tracks and then kind of layering up, and then putting down ideas before you go to final tracking. And then the final tracking is the hardest part. That's 2 months of just solid, like 9 to 5, sometimes longer, working like longer hours and weekends stuff, just putting in lots of time and effort, and just doing final takes of drums, bass, guitar, and everything. And it's pretty tiring, and by the end of it you're really tired. Yeah.
All right, so why did you decide to name the album Exposure? Tell me a bit about the title.
I was kind of wrestling with title ideas, and my mom was like, Chris, why don't you call it Expose? It's such a nice title. It's just like, because you're exposing your emotions, and also the song is just about exposing things and being exposed to yourself. And at first I was like, nah, like no, I don't want to call it that. I want to call it like On My Mind, or I don't know, Fragile, or something like that. Yeah. And over a while, I kind of just started to ponder. And Exposure is one of those, what I'd like to think is like kind of like a gem on the album. It's like a song that's very different. It's not what I particularly call my particular writing style. But Neil brought a really nice John Mayer, like bluesy feel to it, and the whole band and the arrangements were just amazing as well. The brass and strings were arranged by Lynn Paulson, and she played piano on the album as well. And Exposure is one of those like really bluesy kind of John Mayer tracks, which is like slow and melancholic, but also beautiful at the same time. So I just thought, that's it's like just the gem on the album, and just name it after that.
All right. So did you compose all the tracks on the album?
Yeah, all 12 original, yeah.
Oh my gosh. And so talk to me a bit about the writing of these tracks. How long did it take to get all of them ready?
So I've been, the whole album, I think all those tracks I've been writing for about 6 or 7 years.
Okay.
And it's not like a full-time job where you're like, okay, I'm going to sit down and write a song today. These are all things was doing during high school, or when I was going on a camp, or I was at varsity. But all the songs I've written have always been triggered by some kind of emotional experience. So if it's like a heartbreak with a girl who you really love, or like you like, and she doesn't like give you any feedback, and those kind of crushes, and that kind of pain, that you can I think the best songs come out of pain. And I think that's in a sense where like pain helps us to get some, like we need to get it out, like we need to express our emotions, and songwriting is just the way I do that. And so 6 or 7 years I've been writing tracks, and one of them, Fragile, the opening track in the album, I was working for about 3 years at a climbing gym, indoor climbing gym called City Rock in Obbs. And just remember, like, I used to go and wash the dishes after the birthday parties and cleaning up and stuff. And while I was just writing there, like it was like Saturday afternoon, 5:05. And I just used to start humming and writing in my mind. And that's where Fragile was born, actually. Wow. Writing working in City Rock, and then driving home on Saturday evenings, like for a couple of years, And so every song's come from a different place,
So was it difficult to be able to choose tracks from all the tracks that you had written over the years? Was it difficult to say, okay, we're just going to take these and not that?
Definitely, yeah. Neil and I had big fights over I'm like, no, I don't want Exposure to be on the album. He's like, Chris, you got to be joking. What are you talking about? That like song's flipping amazing. I'm like, no, it's okay. And Exposure, I'm really glad Neil actually got his way, because it's a really good song. It came out really nicely.
Okay.
But it is hard. We workshopped about 16 songs down to the 12. Okay. So I'd written 16, 17, workshopped 16 of those, and then workshopped it down to 12 tracks, And it is hard choosing,
Absolutely. And so how would you describe the genre of your music?
I would it's a hard one, actually. I've got a lot of different influences, I think. But the closest thing I can compare it to, I'd call it like indie folk singer-songwriter. That's kind of the genre. Well, singer-songwriter is like a good genre definition. Indie folk is initially what I call it, but I'm not exactly sure how to classify it.
Okay.
It's got some alternative and indie influences, but it's similar to John Mayer, I think, Ed Sheeran, Ben Howard, Mumford & Sons. It's got all those kind of elements in it, with a little bit of the alternative side, like Mute Math, Switchfoot, like Sigur Rós, Explosions in the Skies, different influences like across the board. So
wow, that's a lot of different influences. Now, if you could work with any artist, local or international, who would it be and why?
That's a really cool question. Locally, I'd actually like to songwrite. I think with Matthew Mole, I think he's got a really cool writing style, something similar to me maybe. And some of my songs have also been influenced by him. I think On My Mind, I wrote kind of inspired by one of his tracks and a Ben Howard song and an Ed Sheeran song.
All right.
And he'd be a great guy to work with locally. Internationally, it's a hard one. I think most guitarists would be like, oh, John Mayer.
Yeah.
I'd love to work with John, and but I think at the moment I'd like to work with Ed Sheeran. Actually,
he's amazing.
He's actually my age. He's 23. And I think he also just writes from the heart, and he's a good storyteller, and So Ed, if you're listening, let's jam
hook up
sometime. Yeah.
All right. So what are you currently busy with? You've now got the album. So what are you currently busy with?
Yeah. But now at the moment I'm busy emailing venues and booking gigs or trying to book gigs. It's kind of hard starting out when no one knows who you are. So
hopefully after today they know who you are.
Yeah. Guys, help me here. So booking gigs slowly and and actually been working on my CV as well the last 2 weeks. I'm going to start sending that out actually to look for a job in design potentially, or music, or like I'd love to like intern at a studio or work at a music shop or something, like just either design or music. Those are like my two main passions.
All right.
And just something to keep me busy during the day so I can play music evenings and weekends, I guess.
Wonderful. So before we end off this afternoon's interview, what advice do you have for other young up-and-coming artists that are also wanting to have their very first debut album, and they might not really have the resources to get to that particular point? But what advice do you have for them?
It's a very good question. I think just like realize the importance of relationships. I think you can't over the year. I just realized you can't do it alone. Like you have to. I think in my life, I've been really blessed to have people come into my life and just be surrounded by people who I didn't plan it, but obviously in some way I think God orchestrated that.
Absolutely.
And it's really cool. Yeah. So that value the importance of relationships and just build relationships and networking. That's important. And also I think just doing it day by day and just working one step at a time. And like it's not an overnight success. That's the hard lesson I've had to learn. I had that wrong expectation of you make an album, put it on iTunes, and then you're famous and a millionaire in a day. And maybe it worked with Justin Bieber, I don't know, but it doesn't work like that for 99.9% of people in the world. And it's actually just it's a slog. Like it's a gig by gig, fan by fan, and album sale by album sale. And just work day by day, do one gig at a time, and just focus on doing the best you can in the present, and don't worry too much about the past stuff or the future stuff. But just keep at it.
Wonderful. Now it's gone 26 minutes after 2. We're going to take a quick break and listen to another one of Chris's tracks. And when we come back, he's going to do something live on Lunch. So stay tuned for that coming up next.
Of your soul, it is art. Oh, he knows. And I never could have been all I am without you, Father. Take my hand and all that I live for. In spite of the world's pain, I've always been so hard on myself. But I now know that this life doesn't mean much unless it is lived for the maker of our life. changing, and victim to all the war the devil is waging against you. In your mind, oh, he's turned me against myself and made me face all the hell that is brought on by believing that he cannot be a God who loves us.